Okay, welcome everyone. Good day to you. And I am Jason. I am the proud owner of Soul Seeker, a 37-foot Prout snow goose from 1986. And she no longer has a mast on purpose because our project was all about let's get rid of that crazy erection and in its place go with some solar electric and kind of figure out if we can do this thing with no dino juice. And so I'm joined here today with our co-host Aaron. And Aaron, why don't you say a few words about not only yourself but our surprise guest as well?
Hey, what's up, guys? So my name is Aaron. I'm from Extraordinary Horizons. We are currently building out, renovating, refitting, whatever you want to call it, a 65-foot, one-of-a-kind, one-off custom power catamaran. We're down here in South Florida. Like I was just talking about with our special guest, Iain. We're just about done with this phase, and then we're going to move into fitting out the interior, which is going to be a lot of fun. A lot of experimenting and a lot of fun. So, yeah, I mean, this is, quote unquote retirement for me. It'll be fun next stage in the life, right? So, yeah. All right. So let me introduce Iain. Iain is from Red Seas. He is not joined today by his wonderful other half, Brianna. Brie.
It's a Scottish name. It's Bryony.
Okay, Bryony. Okay, perfect. Sorry for butchering that. Bryony. She's actually on the way to meet him. She might be giving him a kiss in the room soon.
Whoa, must see TV today, folks.
There it is.
Iain's going to be joining us today, talking about a little bit about his iNav and Zora product, iNav for you and Zora product, which to me, in my opinion, is amazing. I've been stalking and taking a look at it for quite a while. It ties in all the necessary stuff on board into one place. Critical stuff. Amazing. Like, so the reason why I respect what they're doing so much is because they're actually out there doing it, right? They're not developing from a glass house. They're developing from a boat, right? From out there in the ocean, far, far away. So they're actually a product of the product. They're using it, they're doing it, they're developing it, they're selling it, they're doing whatever they have to do. They're immersing themselves within it. So yeah, amazing. All right, I'm gonna pass it back to you, Jason, because I could talk all day.
Iain, why don't you tell us a little bit about not only your product that you're going to showcase and share a little bit today, but also just your journeys, which looks pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you heard, so we're Red Seas. We're on a 47-foot, an old Leopard 47 from 2005. We lovingly call her our rescue cat because we got her. She was an empty shell, and we kind of built her back. But she keeps scratching us, and someday she might love us back. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah. So we picked her up all the way back in kind of the BVI, kind of the USVI. It was confusing times. But we picked it up there, and we've since sailed every single stop you can in the Caribbean, across the top of South America, through Panama, and then basically every stop you can imagine in the South Pacific. So we've been all the way down towards La Gambia, which is down by Pitcairn, all the way up to the most remote islands in the Cook Islands, where they have like 13 visitors a year. We charted atolls that had never been charted before, and now we've just arrived. A bit of a spoiler here, but we're currently sailing to New Zealand, but we may or may not have arrived.
Wow, how awesome. Okay, well, welcome to the show, and I want to welcome all of our viewers as well. If you're new to the show, our is very conversational. We're going to be talking today about anchoring. And anchoring is one of those that everyone seems to have a very passionate, I'm right and everyone else is wrong kind of perspective. And what's kind of fun is I don't know, I enjoy Hornet's Nest. I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of like the buzz that I don't know what it is, but I don't mind hearing the hot takes. In fact, I kind of dig it. So, what we're going to do is kind of dive into some key elements of this topic. You'll see Patrick will jump on there. Patrick.
There's Patrick. Oh, wow. Look at that. let's stop. Let's stop show. Right.
Shall we?
Let's bring on Patrick now.
Sorry, guys, I didn't realize the time. It just
you're
just
late.
missed.
You're late, but it's okay.
I love it. Patrick, tell us a little bit about yourself and your boat, and then we'll dive into our disclaimer.
So my boat is a Electra 1976 Cadillac, which arrived with 2 dead diesel engines, and so now it has 2 electric outboards. I still have the mast and rigging, but I use those about maybe about 5% of the time. The rest of the time, I'm a motoring boat, which is good because I don't use any fuel. So it's fine.
Love it. So let's kind of remind everyone that here on Solar Sailing, we are sharing our passion projects. We are sharing our DIY experiences. We are not suggesting that you follow our lead blindly. You need to do your own project. You need to do your own homework, and with all the risks inherent therein, same as we did. Yep. And so without any further ado, I want us to go ahead and dive in here, because this topic is one that is, frankly, I think it's kind of cool. And I think it's an important one because of how impassioned people are, right? And so I'm going to stay on, I realized that my scene went funny on me. Let me see if it's actually accurate. Yep, there it is. That's good. Okay, so this is our thumbnail for today. I should have my little laser pointer. I tried that. And this is actually Aaron right over here. Aaron's on deck. No, I'm just kidding. This is an AI image, but it was one that we really enjoyed and thought kind of speaks to what we're hoping to accomplish today. So without any further ado, let's talk types of anchors. So who wants to dive in? Because really, I have some things to say here, but I'm going to be learning today. Yeah, even though I've done a little bit of this, I haven't done enough to speak authoritatively. So you guys are going to earn your keep today. Go for it.
Yeah, so I'll go. I'll be the guinea pig to go first. So we're building out a 65-foot Power Cat, big heavy beast. She's a beast. So I've never had a boat that large before. I've had several other smaller boats, and I've always used Delta anchors, and I've had really good results with Delta anchors. I haven't necessarily tried a lot of the other type of anchors. I know that, different anchors work in different substrates on the ground. Some work well in seaweed, some work well in mud, some work well in harder ground, etc. But for me, I think an all-around universal good anchor platform is the Delta. So
now, Aaron, if I can jump in there real quick, I'm going to take the vantage point. I'm going to be the representative of the utter complete newbie, because that's almost exactly who I am. And what I'm going to ask is that you guys be patient as I try and represent that. Yeah. And what I'm going to speak to is more things like, hey, you said works well. What do you mean by that? Do you mean how it digs in? Do you mean how it lays? What does that mean? Break that down.
Okay, so the critical largest thing for anchoring, I guess, is not dragging, right? Not losing your footing, because when you lose your footing at an anchoring spot, you start to drift. We're not driving a car. We're not living in a house. The thing is moving, and the water is pushing the platform, the boat, from back and forth and side to side and up and back. And if you lose your footing, especially if you're sleeping, there's problems. So every sailor's, boater's nightmare is to drag anchor, because when you're anchoring, typically there's land not far away, and there's could be coral reefs or other things that you don't want to hit or run into not too far away. So when you start dragging, you're asking for issues. So with the Delta, this is all my opinion, right? So with the Delta, the dig is deep, and the possible dragging is less. So,
okay, so when you say Delta, we're going to reference right here. It's this type of anchor, which I think is referring to the way it's shaped, the way it's built and constructed, as you can see in this graphic, we've got Bruce, CQR, Delta, Danforth, and Fisherman.
Yeah. So I could speak a little bit about the Fishermans and the Danforth. Those are really old. They're older models, meaning they've been around a long time. Fisherman, and I think Patrick's going to speak a little bit on Fisherman, but Fisherman for Fisherman anchor, I look at that as for a smaller vessel, a smaller boat. It just looks like something that you would use on a smaller boat, and there's less surface area for dig. It's just shaped a lot different.
Now,
And
as we jump in a little deeper here, I am going to represent those folks that I talked about who are newbies, but I also want to remind our viewers the comments thread here. Please use that with the chat. We will showcase your questions. And honestly, safe place. If Patrick tries to pick on you for asking a remedial question, I will defend you. I will speak up and I will represent.
yeah, by all means, like we welcome the challenge. Like I'm learning. I don't know everything. And I can speak for these guys too. They don't know everything either. We're all learning. I say this every week. This is anybody that tells you that we're not out there experimenting to find out what's best, or in general, you're not experimenting to find out what's best in life for yourself and moving with the things that work well and throwing away the things that don't and keep on experimenting. They're not telling you the truth. So like, by all means, challenge us. Like I'm open for the challenge. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know everything. So yeah, but for me, in my opinion, the Delta is the best all around good anchor. Is it going to be the best all around good anchor for a 65-foot power catamaran? The jury's out. We'll see on that.
I love that answer. We'll see.
Yeah.
Patrick,
well,
Ian, anything you guys want to add on these types of anchors?
Well, I know Ian has traveled big distances and he's crossed oceans and that, and I'm willing to put money down that Ian, you don't use a Delta anchor.
I was holding my tongue there. So ironically, we carry on Indioco. We have our main anchor is a Rockna spade style, which is that top right picture there. We have a fairly large one of those. We do actually carry two Deltas that the boat came with, and I've only used them once, and it was to kedge ourselves when we ran aground. I was dragging ourselves across the shallows, is essentially what kedging is, if you're not familiar. And we have a Danforth that is kind of one of our reserve backups for stern anchoring, that kind of thing. So we have an array on board that we've used, but by far the spade design, the Rockna design, has been my preference to date. But like you said, every boat is a little bit different. Every substrate seabed is going to be a bit different. So I'm here in Scotland right now, and people here swear by CQR, excuse me. Whereas I would never touch one personally. But here it's like gospel. So it just depends where you are in the world and what you're anchoring in, I think. Obviously, it all comes down to chain length as well, but I'll leave that for further discussion.
Now, Ian, you said the spade style. I don't see that represented. Remember, I'm going to represent the newbies. Yeah. And so I don't see spade listed here with the word. Is that a Bruce? Is that not here? What is that?
I mean, everyone else here probably could contribute to that as well, but in my opinion, it's kind of more like a Bruce. The top right picture you have there with that roll bar would be the Rockna design that we're referring to. So essentially it's a very wide flat platform, slightly weighted on the tip, and the roll bar there is to ensure that when the anchor lands on the ground, if it lands upside down, it automatically corrects itself so that the point is facing towards the ground. And then the idea would be when you're anchoring that entire flat surface will bury itself, and it'll just keep burrowing its way down into the ground. So often we'll just see the very top of that roll bar on display through sand or mud. And then the rest of the tang obviously is on display as well. But yeah, that large surface area is holding your boat to the earth in theory, I suppose.
Brilliant. Patrick, anything you want to add?
There's lots to add. So basically, I put that picture on the left there, Bruce, CQR, Delta, Danforth. Those are all what they consider sort of old generation anchors. The anchors on the right, the Rockna, and that's a Viking over there, are new generation anchors. And new generation anchors are typically worlds better than anything old generation.
I was trying to be nice.
Of the anchors on the left,
Shots were
the
fired.
Delta is the
Shots were fired
one.
this morning.
It's the anchor that pretty much every charter boat has got on it. It's it's a fair all rounder. It doesn't do well in anything. It doesn't do terribly in anything, but if you go and ask the liverboards or the people who cruise permanently or the people who cross oceans and spend every night on anchor, they won't touch anything on the left there, and they'll go for something new gen. The Rockner is the default new gen. If you don't know what you're choosing, you choose a Rockner, you can't go wrong with a Rockner. Then there's some slightly newer designs. There's something called a Viking, which is on the bottom right there, which is built in Ukraine, of all places.
Oh.
That's probably the best holding per weight capacity, but it's got a new generation materials that might be a little bit weak in design. There's a few others. Rockner makes something called a Vulcan, which is kind of similar to that, and it doesn't have the roll bar. So if you've got an anchor roller that can't do the roll bar, a Vulcan is a very good way to go. But there's lots and lots of new generation anchors. There is actually an anchor called a Spade and a whole lot. But I think the most important thing is that you have a new generation anchor if you spend a lot of nights on anchor. And most people that are cruising want to spend as many nights as possible on anchor. And so we go for sort of the best anchor that we
Okay.
think possible.
I have to interrupt right there because you brought up something that's the real world stuff that we want to zero in on. And that is, you've got a lot of experience out there, Patrick, with living on board. And you said most people who are cruising want to spend as many nights on anchor as possible. Why? And like dive in not just to the money savings, but other more altruistic motivation as well.
I think Iain is going to help with that one a bit because, I mean, for me, mostly I don't like docking, so I don't want to go in and out of marinas. It's it's the place where you got things to bump into, and it's always crowded. You don't get airflow over your boat in a marina. It's hot, it's steamy, it's sweaty. In summer, you don't want to be in a marina. You want to be in a nice anchorage, swimming off the back of your boat. Not walking to the bathrooms and things like that.
100%.
What do you think, Iain?
To give you a context, we've been sailing coming up on 6 years now. We visited 3 marinas in that time. And I think we've probably spent in total maybe 4 or 5 days worth of time in marinas. The rest of the time is at anchor. Part of the reason I think I'm in safe company here, there's lots of catchamans on display. So particularly in the world of cats, you're buying something that's very stable, very comfortable at anchor with plenty of space. Traditionally speaking, normally speaking. But yeah, we want to be out there in the fresh water, surrounded by the nature. We shower off the back step, and they don't like you doing that in marinas.
Yeah. For sure.
We're going to talk a little bit about that. I like that little lead in and segue, but I'm not ready to quite segue yet. I want to jump back over here to this slideshow and see, is there anything else that we want to deal with on anchoring types before we go to the next slide?
Yeah. So I'm gonna pull back a little bit, and I'm gonna reconsider as far as what I'm gonna be looking for in an anchor for the 65. Because I'm leaning on Patrick and Iain here as I'm learning, right? I'm gonna reconsider either a Rockna or a Volta,
Wow,
or a Magna, with a New World style anchor. So yeah.
I mean,
okay. So the beautiful thing about what I just heard is, one, it's okay to change your plans,
Of course.
and two,
You better be okay.
actually brilliant to learn from people who have experience in this world.
Yeah.
Like, why not? I'm sitting here again. I'm going to keep harping on this because I think some of our viewers are scared to ask the questions on this topic because they know this is one that's a bit of a, I don't know. There's a lot of buzz around this one.
Controversy.
And that's probably the hornet's nest I was talking about. And they don't want to get stung. I don't care about getting stung. Bring it. I want to ask the stupid questions.
I mean, I'll say that if you're not into learning and experimenting and learning from people that are out there doing it, the boating world's probably not for you. Yeah, because there's lots of opinions and lots of controversy around lots of things because it's free. It's free. Like there's a lot of freedom out there to do different things and experiment with different things far more so than in land life. I think there's a lot less like rules, so to speak. So people are out there doing what they're doing to find what works best for them. So, and I'm open to listen for sure.
Very good. All right. So let's jump back into our slideshow here. I think I'm going once, going twice. How are we doing? Are we ready to move on? Thumbs up, down.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready to move on.
Maybe one thing to add.
Please do.
I've got, when I bought my boat, I had a CQR, I had a Delta, I had a Danforth, and I had 2 fisherman anchors and the anchor I'm using at the moment. And I got rid of all of them except for the Danforth. And for the exact same reason Ian's got it, the Danforth has got huge holding in a straight line and it doesn't turn and reset very well. So it's almost every boat's favorite rear anchor is the Danforth.
Interesting.
Yeah, spot
Very
on.
good stuff.
Good for a hurricane anchor too, because again, if you're going to do forward and stern, aft and bow, a Danforth for a hurricane anchor, you can get huge scale Danforths on board, fortress style anchors.
Very cool. Straight line strength is what I heard there. Now on this slide, we're looking at our current anchors. Bum, bum, bum. I'll start on Soul Seeker. Just a reminder, that's a 37-foot prout with no mast. We did not have an anchor. When we first opened the anchor locker, there was a Danforth anchor that was, shall I say, far more red than it should have been. Like there's a lot of rust. And so it was very clear I needed to get something. Rock and I got our heads together and decided that the cheap option that I had on Facebook Marketplace was this Lumar, a Delta style Lumar, 55 pounds US. Is that 25 kilograms? And so it was in not great condition, but it was fine and it worked. And it was like, all right, let's go for this. At that time, I had convinced Patrick that at that point I was not some creepy stalker after all. And he was willing to take some of my questions as I went. And I was like, what do you think about this? And he's like, it's fine. It'll be fine for what you're doing. And I was like, good, because it's $100. I'm going to grab it.
Yeah.
And so there's pictures of ours. That's it on the bow. And that's it when I had to change the chain because the suckers over at West Marine sold me chain that was not designed for an actual windlass, which is kind of useless. I call them out even still. So they did at least exchange it, full refund and exchange, brought out the replacement stuff. But yeah, I was not very happy about that. I had to pull the chain out. There's a whole episode on our channel on YouTube. You should go watch it. It's fun. And I didn't realize, oh, I don't have to pull this chain through the old windlass to pull it out. And so, yeah, Ian, I pulled it through the freaking windlass, okay? You can judge me all you want. I was judging myself hard enough at the time.
Hey, it worked. It worked in the
It
end.
worked. Now, over here on the center, we have Electra, and there's Electra in the image at the bottom, but this is Electra's anchor. So, Patrick, talk us through what we're looking at.
I call it the battle axe, but it's called a jumbo anchor. Now, when I bought the boat, the jumbo was on board. It's a 20 kilogram. Nobody knows jumbos. I think, Ian, you'll be scratching at what on earth is a jumbo. But if you speak to a German or an Austrian, they swear by jumbos. Now, I didn't know this anchor. I asked on Cruisers Forum what people think, and everyone was like, no, get rid of the anchor, get rid of the anchor. And then I asked in the marina in Croatia where it was, and everyone said, oh, you're so lucky. It's the best anchor in the world. And I thought, okay, I'm going to test it for a season or two. And if I like it, I'll keep it. If I don't like it, I'm buying a Rockner Vulcan, which is the roll wireless one, which has great reviews and great ratings. And it wasn't a money thing in the end. It was just how well it works. And on one night, I ended up in an anchorage, protected on 270 degrees. So everything except for northeast was protected. And there was a very strong southwester forecast, sort of 30 knots. Okay, great. I'm protected perfectly. Nice day. I'm a little bit close to the shore because the wind is blowing me offshore, so it's fine. And I got a call at midnight from a buddy boat about 50 kilometers north from us, and they said they just had the worst storm coming through in the world. Two big thunderstorms had merged into a long, giant storm, and it flipped 180 degrees. I said, which direction is that? Oh, it's coming from the northeast. I'm like, oh, God. I mean, it's the only place I'm unprotected, and it's heading my way. And we were watching it on Windy. If it wasn't sort of 1 a.m. in the morning, I might have gotten out of that anchorage and tried to just face the thing on sea, but I didn't. Stayed on anchor. And as predicted, the wind flipped 180 degrees and it came through at 45 knots. We had about a 3-kilometer fetch, 1.5 meter waves. And next thing, we just hear the maydays going off on the radio everywhere. So in our bay, there were 6 boats, one big lagoon catamaran tied to the rocks, protected from the northeast, a giant motor yacht with 2 anchors out, not protected, and then a few other sort of charter boats and cruiser boats and that. And we were the only person free anchored with one anchor that didn't drag. Everyone else was completely loose. They were uplifting anchors, dropping chains, motoring out into the wind. They nearly hit us 3 or 4 times. And in the bay next door, 4 boats actually ended up on the rocks.
Oof.
And our anchor turned 180 degrees, dug in within less than a meter's distance, and it held like a tree stump. And since then, I've had the unfortunate experience of testing it a few times. And when the wind is howling, it grabs quickly, it buries itself deep, and it holds very well. So I've got no reason to change it yet. But if I had to, it would be the Rockna Vulcan or the Viking from Ukraine, which favor my list at the moment. But I'm hoping I never lose it because it seems to work really, really well. And I think maybe those Germans were onto something.
German engineering. I've heard it's kind of okay.
They do
Yeah,
well.
they do all right.
I mean, that's fascinating because it's almost like, so it has, from what I can see, it has 2 separate tips, right? It's 2 points to this.
Two
bearing in.
spikes, yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a fortress style, but at the same time, you have large surface area. That's really interesting.
It is. And to be honest, I knew nothing about it. I've watched a couple of videos of it setting, and it sets almost in every direction. It resets very quickly.
Wow.
And touch wood, touch all the wood. 3 years, I've never dragged anchor up to 45 knots. Any type of anchorage, it just seems to dig in and works. I think it's the large surface area that
Yeah.
gives you that strong holding.
Hey, Patrick, how much does it weigh?
Doesn't change
What does it
direction
weigh?
very well. And this one turns and catches, yeah.
Patrick, what does it weigh? Do you know around what it
So
weighs?
20 kilo, yeah. 20 kilograms, 45 pounds
Yeah.
is my guess.
Oh, and I'll apologize to our viewers. We did miss a section up here. As I'm going to call that my bad. Forgot to put in all the details there.
Yeah. Sorry.
So you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Now let's dive over to Extraordinary Horizons, which I
Yeah.
know this is kind of, it's not in place yet. So talk to us about this, Aaron.
Yeah, so we can scratch all this. I'm probably going to go with either the Jumbo or the Rockna Vulcan, whatever the name of it was, because yeah, I mean, or do some more research, right? So I'm like I don't know what the word is, but I know when I need to do more research. So I don't think that I'm there yet.
You need a German battle axe. We just learned that
yeah.
today.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and I've never even heard of Jumbo. So the truth is, it's all really online. It's all about marketing, right? Whoever does the most marketing and gets out there, that's its exposure. So I've never heard of it. I'm sure if I start digging today after this call, I will, and I'm going to ask Patrick for some more information because the truth is that he kept that hidden from all of us.
He listen, Ian, you need to know this. Aaron and I are already old vets with this.
Yeah.
Patrick Mackay is brilliant, but he will not tip his hand.
It's a dark horse. That's what this is.
we did not know about this Jumbo anchor at all. So I'm gonna
Jumbo. It's a battle axe. I'm just locked in. It's the battle axe anchor now.
I'm gonna go look for this, and I'm thinking that from a price point, it's probably far lower than these other guys because it's all about branding also. So I'm gonna go out there and look and see. I may be wrong, but yeah, I'm gonna definitely take a look. So I'm gonna reserve my to be determined for another date.
Well, I'll just say it. Nobody's beating $100, so go ahead and kick rocks on that. I win on price.
Yeah,
I'll make one point. There's a fantastic YouTube channel called Sailing Vessel Panape, SV Panape, and he is the ultimate anchor tester. And he does all the tests with all the anchors, and he's completely honest and unbiased, and he's got a ranking table of all the different anchors as well.
Cool.
And spend some time on Sailing Vessel Panape. You probably won't find a Jumbo anywhere out of Europe, but I also don't know if it does well in other surfaces that we don't get around. So the Germans all sail in Croatia and Greece. That's where they go.
Yeah,
and that's where I'm sailing.
And as to Jason's comment, $100, what is that?
Delta.
Yeah, the anchor there isn't going to hold a 65-pound beast. So
no, there's no chance.
A 65-foot beast. So yeah, I mean it.
Touche.
I'm gonna have to keep looking. Let's just say that.
Ian, what about you, brother? We didn't know you were going to be joining us this morning. And thank you so much for the last second, batter up. That was pretty cool. But tell us a little bit about what you've got on board.
Yeah, well, as I say, our primary anchor it's a Rockna that we use primarily. So it lives on the gypsy at the front, on the windlass rather, on the front. It's a 40 kilo we have, so quite a large one for us. Typically you'll find online, as you guys are probably aware, you'll find reference tables online from every manufacturer of anchors with a suggested anchor weight that you're going to want versus the length or weight of your boat, usually the weight of your boat. And I think we are pretty much in the sweet spot there, maybe a little bit on the heavier end of that scale, according to Rockna. I did want to mention, just because I see Mantis there, and Mantis make a great anchor that it kind of comes flat pack and you can put it together. It has a very similar shape to the Rockna. But it wasn't this Annapolis boat show, but the one prior, I was doing a panel with a couple other channels, and the question came up about anchors. And I'll not name names, but the host is a channel, and he said, "Of course, everyone loves Mantis. That's what we all use, right?" And turned to the panel and went down the line, and it was Rockna, 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 Rockna.
Wow!
And he just stood in disbelief and was standing there with a Mantis badge on at the time. Was like, "Oh, what have I done?"
Yeah.
Now, that's not to diss their brand, but as you mentioned, it's all in branding. And if there's one anchor brand out there who've done an incredible job to be noticed, it's Mantis. They do a huge amount to make sure people know their brand is there. But yeah, for the majority of people we know, I would say 90% of cruisers that we come across, it's Rockna on the front of the boat.
Well, I'd like to take a moment here, and because this one's broken up, this episode's broken up into chunks pretty good, and it's a nice place to request that you engage with this, send comments. We'll definitely highlight those, but also please take some time if you're interested in the content you're getting on this show. Go back and watch the other episodes. They're available on Extraordinary Horizons, Soul Seeker. I think that Patrick's working on getting them out there on Sailing Electra as well. And we want to bring you content that's meaningful, engaging. So please subscribe, click like, comment, all the things, share. We're also out there on a number of different social media. Those are all available in the description. So please follow us. We'll follow back and definitely engage with you. I'll follow back. I don't know about the others, but they seem like they're pretty open to that as well. So moving on here, we have a new slide to look at, and that is dun dun dun. This is the big one that I want to shut up and listen. So I'm going to start off with chain, rode, bridle, and more in the upper right hand corner. You will see that red anchor that I was telling you about that was so hideous and ugly and a monstrosity. And then you'll see the chain. That's our current chain, and that fits wonderfully. And then above you can see just kind of that view of it tied off. That's there on board Soul Seeker. I just wanted something to polish off this slide, so I threw in some footage that I had. Now, Patrick added this really awesome and informative infographic here. So I'm going to shut up and listen and let you guys take it from here. But Patrick, if you don't bring up the bridle topic, I will not move on from this slide until you do.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so basically the anchor is only one part of your holding system. And if you've got a really good anchor, like I've never heard anyone complain about their Rockna. I think they all love them. Although there's a Rockna Mark II now, which is out, and that looks really good, I must say. It looks like they've taken the best bits of the Vulcan and the Rockna and combined them into one. So that's something really interesting to look at. Anyway, you'll notice that the anchors only hold kind of in a straight line. You can, if you pull them up, an anchor will break free. Every anchor will break free. But if you've got enough of a chain length into your anchor, typically it'll hold as well as possible. But that's only one part, because anchors typically break free, not because the wind is too strong, but because there's lots of jerky movements on the anchor. They sort of break free. They don't sort of slide free very often. They do, but that's not the real reason. And a lot of people talk about the effect of catenary, which is basically how the chain naturally curves in the wind. And this catenary gives you a bit of a very nice arc. And when the wind blows stronger, it sort of straightens up a bit, and then it goes down a bit again. And that kind of absorbs the impact of the pulls on the anchor to keep the anchor in the ground. The downside is it only works up to 40 knots. So from 40 knots onwards, your chain is as straight as a bar. You can walk up and down it. It's rock solid. There's no shock absorption in that at all. And so the first rule about keeping your anchor in the ground is to keep that angle of the chain to the bottom as flat as possible. So the general rule of thumb, and if you work on the same, is about 5-to-1. I don't sleep well unless I've got 5-to-1 on my anchor chain. If I've got space, I'll put more anchor out because it does no good in the anchor chain. But I will try and go a little bit more than that if I can. What is your default? Yeah, and you've been in a lot of different anchorages.
Ooh, man. Okay, so 5-to-1 is my default. I'd love to live at 5-to-1. However, when we got into the South Pacific, that game changes dramatically. You're anchoring on the side of underwater volcanoes where it's 3,000 meters deep, and you've got like a tiny shelf of sand to grab hold of. So, yeah, we've definitely flouted with that personal rule a few times, but we try and stick as close to 5-to-1 as we can. Obviously, I'm sure you're about to go into this, but tide has something to do with this as well. So, although you may think you're putting at 5-to-1 at say low tide, when it comes around to high tide, that's not 5-to-1 anymore. So yeah, you have to have a lot more chain than you might think. As you say, putting out more is never a bad idea.
As long as you're not going to bump into anything or anyone.
Again, in the South Pacific, there's no one around.
You're lucky. I'm in Greece. It's the exact opposite of
Very
that.
different, yes.
And I'm in the Intracoastal Waterway. I've got like 100 feet. That's all I got.
Yeah. Anyway, so the one thing you want to do is you want to try and absorb these impacts. Now, nowadays, virtually every cruising boat is all chain. There's not too many that have got a mixture of chain, and they call it chain and rod. It's chain and rope. The problem with chain is it's not flexible. It's solid, it's like bang, 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 which is not good for keeping an anchor in the ground. So when you do have a mix, you actually have a bit better absorption. But for most of us who want to get an all-chain rod and have a bit of stretch involved, that's where the bridle comes into play. So the bridle is basically rope, and I'm allowed to call it rope because I'm not sailing right now, which holds onto the chain and provides a bit of that shock absorption so that when you get a huge gust or when your boat is swung sideways and the wind hits the side and it pulls really hard, that instead of having all that force going to the anchor, you want to absorb some of it and try and minimize the amount of force that's going onto anchor. So the best bridles are long and stretchy. Now, how long and how stretchy is the question, because you can't make your bridle as long as the anchor because it's going to get caught in something and it's going to rip up on rocks under the water and that. So you kind of want to keep your bridle off the bottom. So stretchy is very, very, very important. So the typical would be a nylon bridle because nylon is quite a stretchy rope. But there are some manufacturers now making special rope that stretches even better. I know Leros has got what they call their 20% stretched rope, which is very, very good. What I've done is I've got some dynamic climbing rope for my bridle because that's the stretchiest rope in existence. And mine is about 4.5 to 5 meters long on each leg. And that's supposed to reduce my impact force on the anchor by up to 60%, which is massive. In fact, in some cases, it's even more. But if I had the ability to run rope all the way back on my deck and then off into the water, I would make it even longer, and I'd run my bridle all the way to the back cleats through some fair leads into the water. I don't have fair leads just yet, so I've got two bridles. I've got a storm bridle, which is about 10 meters long, and I've got my regular bridle, which is 5 meters long. My regular one has done service every day except one, and the storm bridle's only been used once, but I didn't need it that day. But yeah, the stretch makes a huge difference. In fact, you can actually see it stretch. You can feel it stretch. And the little loop that hangs between the bridle and the chain, you can see it goes straighter and bend. And it does a really good job of taking that impact off the anchor. So regardless of what anchor you've got, you can make it perform better with a nice stretchy bridle. Iain, what are you using?
I mean, yeah, everything you're saying makes perfect sense. I think there's a few factors. There's obviously we talked about holding of your anchor. Then there's the question of having chain actually on the seabed, which will take up even more friction, which will reduce the chances of you dragging. And then, yeah, moving on to the world of bridles, we actually had our original bridle actually exploded on us. We had a 50-knot bullet come down through a valley in, where were we? St. Martin. And we were actually inside the vessel at the time, inside the boat. I was in the forward cabin working on a hatch. And I was convinced that the hatch lid had just fallen because like a gunshot went off through the boat. And we went out to find that one leg of our bridle, so one hull, if you like, bridle comes off the bows of both hulls, it had actually exploded and you could see the marks all the way up the side of the inside of the hull.
Wow.
That's involved. So that was an old bridle and therefore it lost its stretch. It was rotting inside the line. And we actually ended up replacing it, just as you described, with a nylon mega braid. So this is 12 strands all braided together into a very stretchy line. And we went long. We actually have a 10 meter, I think it comes to, in total bridle. But we then have, I was really happy you mentioned it, that you mentioned climbing ropes, because I used to climb a lot. And so we used it like almost like a snubber. So we actually have our 10 meter length bridle, two legs coming off the bows. But we have climbing lines that we can, we can actually lash up like snubbers that act as the extra shock absorber. So when the bridle tensions, it starts pulling on that climbing line, and that gives it that extra bounce again. So the longer the bridle, the smoother your ride is at anchor, and the more flexible the bridle, the less jarring on your anchor and anchor chain there'll be. I'm summarizing what you just said there as well, Patrick. You're bang on the money.
So what I'm hearing is basically you're making the best of both worlds. You have a rigid anchor, a rigid chain,
Yep.
to a rigid anchor, and then you're coming back up to something that's a lot more flexible. That's going to give you, so now you have the flexibility and you have the rigidness.
You're kind of winning on two other factors as well, because you're right. Your rigid chain is bolt solid in high wind, but by giving yourself that suspension, you're taking all the pressure off of your chain lock or your windlass. Please never leave your anchor just sat on the windlass alone on the Gypsy, because the gearing will slide and eventually you'll lose your anchor chain and certainly damage things. You're taking that pressure and distributing it to the two anchor points of your bridle traditionally, or on a monohull it might just be one, snubber style. Giving yourself a natural suspension system that's mechanical, followed by, well, it's both mechanical, but chain acting with that suspension system of gravity, and then the elasticity of the bridle.
Yeah. Cool.
Brilliant. So I want to go back with a comment here from one of our viewers. Brian Johnson has asked that we cycle back to the point that was brought up on our anchors. And he's saying that the testing of the Rockna has determined a serious resetting issue. Please comment, as he's looking to replace his Rockna with its S200 Spade. Comments their panel, because I have nothing to add to that.
It looks like Ian's like itching to answer.
3 months ago that huge tsunami ripped through the Pacific? Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
We were in a bay directly facing north at the time, and we were sat watching this rolling towards us. So it turned out it wasn't the huge tidal wave that was forecast. It was far more tame than that. But what it did do was, in the course of 5 hours, I think we had reset maybe 8 times. So what you have is the surge would come in, it would force the tide to go one way. Then once it reaches inland, it would start to retract and the boat would spin back again. So we were doing donuts in the anchorage. We chose to stay at anchor partly because everyone around us had left. Maybe we should have listened to that. That's a whole other conversation. The point is that we did reset multiple times, and I actually checked on our system at the time, and our reset distance was less than 6 feet in every direction. So, and that's on the rock now. Now, I'm not saying that's gospel. Maybe we were lucky. It was certainly mud that we were in, so it's quick to set. It sinks fast. But
but I mean, isn't resetting in a situation like that's inevitable, isn't it? I mean, when your boat's blowing around in circles, how you have to, the boat is going to reset itself, no?
It's going to reset itself. The question is how much it might drag by. Sorry, Patrick, you probably got more on this than I do, and more science behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, so Rockna did make a Mark II, and the Mark I, everyone was surprised when Penapay tested it, and it didn't perform really well in resets, because everyone who's got one loves them, and they all say it grabs first time, every time, whichever direction you're getting blown into. So there is something to look into over there. Would you swap your anchor at zero cost for a Mark II? Yeah?
That's a great question. I don't think I would yet. Not even at zero cost. That's just me being a skeptical boatie, isn't it? I'm kind of going, you know what? I'll give it 10. I'm not too sure. I would certainly play around with one. I'd love to. Hey, if Rockna's listening, I'd love to have a shot. But
now, can you revisit and confirm? I think I heard, was it mud?
In that scenario, it was mostly mud on the bottom, so it was a fairly fairly deep mud base that we were dropping in. Quite a deep bay with a river flowing into it. So between mud and tree debris and so on, that's what we were dealing with. Usually we anchor in sand or grind up coral from old coral fields and that kind of stuff as well with the Rockna. That's so far to date anyway. Mud, sand, and debris. Scrabble, I suppose, is the official.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Patrick, anything else to add to the conversation?
The other interesting thing about the Rockna, so in Greece, in the busiest part of Greece, there's a bay called Vliho Bay, and it's kind of well protected, all protected all around, and the wind comes from different directions all the time. But there's a yacht club there called the Vliho Yacht Club, and they will look after your boat if you go away, and you can leave it on anchor, and it's really cheap. And they've got one condition: you have to have a Rockna anchor. They won't do it if you don't have a Rockna anchor, which is very, very interesting. Yeah.
Never heard that. That's
I'll
very
stop there.
interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So you heard it here, folks. Rockna, we would like for you to sponsor us because we're singing your praises here on Solar Sailing.
If
So
they
I
offered
think
me a
we're
Mark
ready.
II at no cost, I would be very tempted. Yeah,
Oh.
the
Worth
Rock
paying
Mark
for
II
sure,
looks
right?
really, really good.
Patrick brought an answer to his own question. I respect of that. All right, so let's revisit our slideshow here and jump to the question of the windlass. So there are 2 boats windlass featured here, and 3 total windlass. So this was the windlass that came with the boat, Soul Seeker, and this is what happened after trying to salvage it and be cheap. And then I was like, okay, well, I've got to get this new windlass out here. And if you remember West Marine, they did salvage themselves a little bit. The ones in Oriental, good. The ones down further south from there, I don't want to call them out too much. Boom. And so when we look over here on the right, we're looking at Electra's beautiful. Look how clean that is. That looks so good.
It's not Electra's winch, but it's similar to
Oh.
Electra's winch. I couldn't find a picture, funny enough.
Oh, well, my apologies. Actually, I think it's in the video that you approved us using. So that's why I was going to brag on it, because in the video, we see some cleanup was necessary on aisle 1. But I digress. It's still a beautiful anchor. Now, let's talk about this, though, because obviously, I can even speak to this. The windlass is the electric motor, pulls the chain and the anchor up for you and saves your back, right? Like, that's just obvious. But it also serves a really good purpose in the idea of setting it. You can raise, lower, and get it just kind of precise, and then work as you go, stop as you're pulling it up so that you can spray off the chain, all that kind of stuff. Very, very useful. But one thing you don't want to do is leave the pressure from the chain and the weight of the boat and all that pulling on that windlass, because it's just going to damage it over time. So for those of you who, like me, are newbies to this whole world, the veterans here, they'll roll their eyes and be like, yeah, no kidding, idiot. And I'll be like, yeah, I don't mind. You can call me whatever you want. This is an important lesson to learn. And so for those of you like me out there, that's cool. That's what this little cleat is for right there. You can tie off and hold that weight right here instead of back here on the windlass, where you can do damage to that very expensive piece of equipment. Now, let's have you guys chime in here. Windlass, what points do we need to know? What lessons do we need to learn? What to avoid? Are there brands that we need to prefer over other brands? You guys locked in on Rockna, so surely you're going to lock in on something here. I'm hoping.
I don't even look in. I had a picture in here that was either pop up or pop away, which I didn't.
Oh, it might be. Let me see if it'll do it. There it is. Boom.
There we go. We got it. So there's windlasses are in 2 main categories. You get vertical windlasses and you get horizontal windlasses, and if you have a look at the one you had and your new one as well, you'll notice that the wheel is sideways. So yours is a horizontal windlass where everything is above the deck, and mine is similar to the one on the right, which is a vertical windlass where stuff is all underneath the deck. Pros and cons for both types. There's obviously no real winner there. For the horizontal ones where you've got everything above deck, it's actually quite good. It keeps everything dry because the sun dries things off, and that there's nothing under the deck where water can collect or there can be humidity or anything like that. One of the big differences is that you'll notice on the windlass on the right, the chain goes almost 270 degrees around it before it drops into the deck. So there's a lot of hold on that chain when you're pulling. Whereas with the horizontal ones, you've got maybe about 3 or 4 of those teeth on the gypsy holding onto the chain. So that's some downside. You also have a lot more deck space when you look at the one on the right. Now I've got a small boat, so I've got a small bit of deck, whereas you've got a 37-foot boat, you've got a lot more deck space. But the one yours takes up more space than mine. In theory, the ones that are vertical, like mine, work very well for rope and chain. Now, I've never tested that because I don't have any rope on my anchor. I might actually get some, but at the moment I don't. Whereas the vertical ones, because you've only got 3 teeth grabbing, they might not grab so well. So sometimes they put another barrel on the other side where you can move the rope across and wind up that side. In terms of makes, I don't know. I don't have different types of makes. I've never tested different types of makes. In fact, I'm trying to think what mine is. Mine is called a quick windlass 720 watts.
Right.
And it's worked well for 3 seasons. It's never broken down. I've had to clean it, but that's pretty much it. They do say the ones that are like mine, where most of the motor's under the deck, it sits in an area that is always humid because the sun doesn't get in and dry things out. So they say in theory you can have more corrosion on my type than your type. But again, it hasn't been a problem so far, touching all the wood I can find. That's all I know about windlasses.
Ian, anything to add, or Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, so it's an interesting mixture here. So yeah, I have a horizontal style. So of the diagram there, the one on the left, and in our scenario, it's kind of interesting. So you're right, 3 teeth on that gypsy wheel are holding onto links on that chain. So there's a lot lower surface area. So there is a chance of the chain skipping, and particularly as that gypsy starts to wear out. So we've swapped out our gypsy now. Admittedly, our boat is 20 years old, and that was probably the first time it ever had its gypsy swapped, but it can happen. And that could be disastrous, suddenly having your entire chain deployed to the bottom in 3 meters of water for no reason. So yeah, we made a point of changing that out. The one thing I will say, so no one mentioned it, but obviously this is a DC motor. This is an electric motor that's
Very
running.
good point.
So both have to be maintained to some degree. And Patrick's point there about humidity is obviously, it can attack the electrical components of that motor. So we have had to do some maintenance on ours in the past, cleaning up the brushes and things like that. It's a hard-working part of our boat. In our case, we do use the line barrel on the other side. So again, the diagram here is showing the chain side of that gypsy. On the opposite side, so behind that, there's actually what looks more like a traditional line winch, like a rope winch. And in our case, it's the guys at Robertson and Kane were really kind to design the boat that it perfectly lines up to act as a halyard winch. So we can bring our main halyard down and wrap it around that barrel and then just have a bit of an easier life using that half, where I'm not aware of the vertical style having that flexibility so much, but you would use it in different scenarios, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, for us, we're kind of quite happy with the horizontal style, simply because we use it for 2 functions, which is beneficial.
I have just one recommendation on a windlass. What you really, really, really need for your windlass is a remote.
100%.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, this is true. Listen, rewind, rewind, 10-second rewind, and play that again. You need to hear that.
Yeah, the man is 100% correct. Yeah, more than one. Have a spare. Have some buttons on the floor, like you have in that photo there too.
Have some buttons on the floor.
Yeah, so mine didn't come with a remote, and I checked the quick windlass site, and I could, for €400, I could buy a remote. But what you're basically doing is there's a giant relay, and you activate 2 ports on the relay. So I've spent €15 on AliExpress and made a remote for mine. I've never used the switches since. I've used the remote every single day, and I do have a spare. It sits inside my boat.
Do you use
without the remote, you're stuck at the front there. You can't go backwards and forwards. You can't do anything. You can't. When I'm solo and I come into a very windy anchorage, I don't want to go forward and drop that anchor. I want to do it from the back of the boat there, so that it's in the water by the time I get front.
100%. Do you use the garage style remote, wireless one?
Yes, it's a wireless garage style remote. Yeah.
So it doesn't even have to be a marine unit, because, like I say, they're €15.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did the same. You just wire it into the tabs, and you have a little button cell battery style remote. We actually added a camera to our anchor well. So for the same reason as you mentioned there. So when we're dropping our chain, if we're solo or one of us is busy, from the helm, we can actually see the angle of the chain as it's leaving the anchor well, or leaving the gypsy, I suppose. And that way you can, from the helm, back down safely and keep everything nice and aligned, using a wireless remote to drop as well. So you're again, bang on the money. He knows his stuff.
If you've got a video of that on your site, please share the link, because that sounds really cool, the anchor in front there.
Oh yeah,
the camera in front there.
In fact, I think we might even have a video coming up where we detail in a bit more. So I'll send it your way.
So that kind of leads right into nicely this video, which I was able to capture. The audio is terrible, so we're just going to watch for a little while. This has never been released, and so this is first time showing, folks. And this was back when my wife and I, Patrick and his lovely wife Candace, invited us to come out and actually board Electra. And this was our first meeting of them as a couple. And we just happened to be on vacation there in Greece. And it was like, no way, let's do this. He's kind of a hero. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing ever. They probably think we are stalkers. And like, this is so weird. How are we going to do this? And actually, it was really cool. And Patrick showed how to handle his anchoring system. So you can see already there at the bow of the boat there where the chain kind of hovers over the mess that I was talking about. Like clean up on aisle one. There it is. And so let's go ahead and take a look here. Again, the audio, I'm not hoping you're going to hear that very well, but let's see what we get.
Okay, not much. So what I'm telling you is you got to kick the chain over on my boat because the windlass is below the deck. There's not a lot of space, so you got to keep knocking the piles over. If you don't, the windlass will actually jam up. I've got with an electric boat, you've got remote control for your throttles, yeah, which is really, really cool. So you can actually steer the boat using the two throttles, and you can drive in a straight line, which is quite nice. So in my first season, I had my wife helping me. In my second season, I did everything solo, so I could steer the boat and lift the anchor and all the rest. And I think what I was explaining there is you've got to make sure that you are over your anchor chain when you lift it. If you're at an angle, you can't, you're expecting the windlass to be a giant, huge motor to try and pull the boat forward, which you don't want to do. Your windlass is there to lift chain.
100%.
I use a soft shackle to attach my bridle to the anchor chain because it's cheap and you can make it yourself. Yes, and a little Dyneema loop. It's a climbing loop because my soft shackle doesn't fit through the chain too nicely. I've got an 8mm chain, but the climbing loop does quite nicely. That's my climbing rope bridle, which is 10 point something mil climbing rope. And it's done the job very nicely.
Patrick shouting out YouTube for learning. I love it.
I wasn't expecting to be filmed yet, so I wasn't not sure what I was talking about.
Listen, I got Patrick's approval to share this first. I'm not that guy.
We were in a deep anchorage here. This was a 17-meter anchorage. Now I carry 75 meters of chain. So for 5-to-1, I would have needed to be in a 15-meter anchorage with the amount of chain I've got. But you'll find the deeper the anchorage gets, the more you can sort of play with those limits on how much chain you need out, because chain is heavy. So,
Yeah.
Patrick, look how clear that water is. Oh my God.
yeah, you do get spoilt in some of the anchorages. In our first year, we spent a lot of time in northern Italy, and you couldn't see the anchor, even in 2-3 meters of water. It was invisible.
Aaron, we don't
In
get
Greece,
that in
you
the
see the anchor.
ICW.
No,
In
you're
Greece, you
not.
see the anchor in 10, 12 meters sometimes. It's quite something. I'm sure the Pacific is also like that and very clear.
Oh yeah, gin clear. Yeah. Fantastic.
Anyway, I've got
Well,
my remote in my left arm, in my left hand, and I normally steer the boat with my right hand and lift the anchor quite nicely.
Very smooth.
What else are
So-
we going to talk about in this, Jason?
well, on
you made
this.
an interesting point. I'm sorry,
Oh,
Jason.
no, go ahead, Ian. Yeah, go ahead.
It's an interesting side point, which maybe is a conversation that comes up further down the line regarding having to kick the chain down in the anchor well there. Because also, are we going to discuss like the two different types of anchor chain that are out there? Is that coming up later?
We're talking stainless and
Yeah,
okay, it's actually not coming up later. I think it's worth bringing up now.
Yeah, let's bring it up now.
I didn't want to spoil anything coming up later. Yeah, it's an interesting point. So we actually switched somewhat controversially. So here's a new hornet's nest for you, because we are now running on stainless anchor chain rather than galvanized, which is plated, if you like. So a stainless anchor chain, there are pros and there are certainly cons. One of the pros happens to be that it's a lot slippier. So for us, we used to have to kick the chain down to stop that Christmas tree happening inside the anchor well, but we no longer need to. So It's just one of the pros,
That's
but I'm throwing this small bomb out there in the conversation, expecting this to go off in my face.
Well, let's talk about the cost. What did you pay to do that upgrade?
See, this is the problem. I was gifted it, so I got very lucky. But it is
Oh, there it
incredible.
is at no cost. You heard it here, folks.
It's
It's come back again.
it's quite a bit more costly to do stainless than galvanized. But
Oh, yeah.
Stainless could be stronger, and stainless is definitely slipperier. Yeah,
And it's, I mean, you're talking like, I don't know the real numbers, but $8,000 for less than 100 meters of chain. It can be really expensive in US terms.
Yeah, I mean, so there's also different tensile strengths of chain. There's G40, there's G70, there's some other numbers in there. So from what I've heard from the chain manufacturers is that if you go up to a higher test chain, like G70, I believe is the highest, you can go down in a link size. One link size down. So this is why this topic is really, there's so many variables, it's controversial, there's lots of testing behind it, but testing is testing. When the rubber meets the road, so to speak, that's a different story. So
this could be a whole other podcast, right? There's so much to talk about on this one.
Let's
sure.
Go. Sounds like Iain is joining us for another episode, folks. I love it.
Go on.
Go on, Jason. One question on your stains. How do you know when it's time to replace it? And
there it is. That was the ticking time bomb, right?
Yeah. So at some point, what's going to happen? I mean,
exactly. So with stainless, unlike galvanized, where the galvanic covering, if you like, on your chain will start to degrade. Quite often the mess on the bow there is partially from chain flaking. In the world of stainless, it stays shiny, brand new looking its almost entire life. What happens, however, is microscopic cracking. So you can actually have a link that is just poised. I mean, we've had shackles do it on the boat, and they aren't going in and out the sea every day. But yeah, it's just poised to explode on you, and you've lost your anchor chain and your anchor, and possibly even your home at that point. So it is certainly a risk. So regular inspection is one thing, looking for any form of wear and pitting is another, but it's almost an unknown. It is kind of this, it has a lifespan, and then you have to start crossing.
You could also say that for galvanization. So galvanization wears off, it starts to corrode, it starts to rust, it starts to turn red, it oxidizes. But how many little microscopic cracks are too much? I guess that's why the disclaimer is there, right? That's up to you to decide how much of a risk you can take, because like Iain said, you could lose your home, we could lose your footing, and you could drag anchor, or your anchor could break.
And it's the same goes like galvanized tends to give you a hint. It's a bit like a chafing line. How much chafe are you willing to see on your furling line before it's time to top and tail it or replace it? Right. It's kind of the same. Galvanized gives you the clue that it's going, where stainless literally will just look brand new one day, and then it'll be in two pieces the next.
It stays beautiful forever. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So we had a question posed here. Brian Johnson, again, thank you, Brian, for all the engagement. It's great. Glad this is something you're into, and glad to have you here. Asks the question, what about securing the end of the anchor chain to the boat? Do you recommend a small basket of line with a knife for emergencies?
Who was to start?
Iain, Patrick, go ahead.
I'm talking too much.
So I've got my bridle obviously holds the chain from ripping the boat off the deck, but then I've got another line which goes onto the deck cleat and just holds a tiny bit of chain on the end, so that if my bridle had to break, it won't jerk onto the windlass all at once. It'll go onto this extra line. The question is how do you drop it really quickly? So if I needed to let out a lot more chain in a huge blow, I can't go and pull my bridle all the way back in, or at least not easily. In which case, I think the only thing you could do, if I had to drop my anchor and run in a massive storm, I would have to get the knife out and I had to cut my bridle and cut the line on deck. It's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's good. Doesn't happen.
Yeah, I know. Come on. Yeah, we're in exactly the same boat. We have obviously you always have a knife on board, but chopping the bridle, usually tying off a fender to the anchor chain so you can find it later. And then, yeah, we have, I forget what it is right now, probably about 5 meters of nice, heavy, essentially road, dock line plus, which, as you rightly pointed out earlier, on a horizontal style windlass, it won't hold very well on the Gypsy. So if we have to deploy in a hurry, we let out all that chain, and then the weight of that chain actually pulls that 5 meters up. And it's actually tied off to the bulkhead inside the anchor well. So then anywhere on deck, we can just go and karate chop that line, and the entire anchor chain and a little bit of road will disappear into the sea. Yeah. But like you said, let's hope this never happens. We've had to pull the anchor up in some big storms, and slow and steady is the answer.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and dive over to, excuse me, hate to do that. I tried to mute, but too late. The anchorage selection. Now, this is going to be my favorite segment because I want to learn from you brilliant Jedi Masters. And so I have some questions that I've posed here, and I want you to answer honestly. Not that you wouldn't otherwise, but it just felt good to say honestly. And so that is, what advice do you have for selecting a safe anchorage? So I want you to think that you're targeting people like me, people who are new to this world, not the grizzled sailor who has a strong opinion about everything, the newbie who's a greenhorn, who's going, teach me your ways, O wise one. How do you go about selecting a safe anchorage? Let's say you're underway and you're looking at your chart plotter and you're going, okay, what about this? What things are you, what do you keep in mind?
Patrick, Ian.
Why do I have to start? No, it's your turn, yeah.
No. One of you guys go.
Now, I will caveat this. I've noticed this changes in different parts of the world. So there is actually tailoring of this advice, I think, a little bit. So, in our experience, what we do is the main factors are always going to be current wind direction and forecast wind direction. So if you're heading into a bay that's north facing and there's a predicted storm to roll through, there's a good chance you're going to at some point have a lee shore. And that will dictate where within an anchorage you go, or if you go at all. Particularly swell forecast is a big part for us as well. So again, let's just keep that example. You got a north facing bay, you head in there and the swell is forecast to roll around. Well, you're going to have a pretty horrible night if you want to try and fall asleep in 3-meter waves crashing onto you. So we would usually look to those two forecasts, the swell and the weather or wind direction, I suppose. The other ones are obviously holding. So is it sand? Is it mud? Is it rocks? In our world, that's even more relevant to coral heads, so bommies. So when we're heading into these little atolls that are kind of rings of turquoise water in the middle of the ocean, they're full of these little coral heads that are just waiting to get you. So you need to know that you're going to go in, find a good patch of sand, and that kind of brings you on to the fourth point, which is swing radius. So we may find the perfect patch of sand, but if there's a coral head 5 meters over to our starboard and another one 5 meters to our port, we only have 5 meters of chain swing radius room, and that's probably not enough for the depth we're in. So those are kind of our 4 key factors. I'm sure there's plenty more if I wanted to go into it in too much detail, but I don't want to hog the mic. Patrick, you're in.
No. Here we have got to sort through that. This is a chat among friends, and for real, those who are watching online, we want you to join in the comments as well. But ultimately, we are not holding any of our panelists or any of our questions to some weird standard. This is asking questions, getting answers, and everyone answer what you're thinking. This is a safe place.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I'm interested in Europe, in the Med. It must be a fairly different experience. You got slate, you got stonework to deal with.
It's a different world to what we used to. I mean, so the one nice thing is we don't have tides to worry about. Not really. I mean, they exist, but you never take notice of a tide. The main thing is obviously shelter. But now, this is my practice. I tend to look at what the wind is going to be doing overnight, because I don't mind if an anchorage is a little bit uncomfortable while I'm awake, but I don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night because I'm bouncing up and down. So for me, I tend to look at specifically sort of from 10 p.m.'s wind onwards until 7, 8 a.m. in the morning. That's the one that really worries me. Is that wind going to be protected? And then, so windy is quite nice. I've got the wave forecast as well. And you'd expect the wind and the wave to always be in the same direction. But a lot of the time, I don't know if it's the Med or if it's all over the world, a lot of the time that's not the case, where the wave will come in a completely different angle. And I'm more tolerant to wind direction changes than I am to swell coming into the anchorage. Our boat is small; it bounces around quite a lot when you've got some swell coming in. So for me, what the waves are doing, sort of that time of the day, is a big factor. Um, in priority, so protection is my number one priority. My second priority, funnily enough, in Greece, this is not the case in Greece. In Greece, it's how much space is there going to be in that anchorage because they fill up like completely. You just can't anchor in an anchorage because there's so many people in it. So I'm often on the apps and Navily or No Foreign Land and that, and I'm asking people how much space is there, and they'll say, "Oh, it looks like we could fit a boat or two more," and that's for me something I consider. And then I get into sort of the holding and that. And if you haven't got Navily, I think most of you guys will have Navily by now, but if you haven't got Navily, it's the best anchoring app ever because it talks about all the anchorages. It
Ever.
gives you quite a good idea on what direction they're quite safe from. But then there's reviews, and I tend to overdo my analysis. I go through almost every review on a new anchorage if I haven't been there before, trying to find out what people liked and what people didn't like, and is there an electrical cable going under the water that's going to trap my anchor, and are there rocks that are going to trap my anchor or things like that. And then in Greece, you also a lot of the anchorages aren't free anchoring. You've got to tie back to land in Greece quite often, and you can't do it solo. I suppose you could, but there's no safe way to tie back to land solo. So if I'm a solo sailor, which I often am because my wife flies around a lot, I can't go to an anchorage that's a tie to shore anchorage. So I'll just ignore those completely. What else do I look at? Access to land. This is a weird one. It's probably a special case for me because we've got two dogs. So if I can't get to land, and there are quite a few anchorages where you can't get to land, they're kind of off my list as well. But Navily is my go-to app for finding anchorages, and I
Brilliant.
just go through every single review and see what's going on. Yeah.
Do you find that you discredit some of the more older ones, like beyond a certain number of years, or do you value all of it?
No, well, I mean, sometimes the anchorages are very popular and you could go back forever. I know I don't often get to the end, but if a few people say there's no holding, I might look for one that's known to have better holding. We have seagrass in Europe, and you shouldn't. I mean, if you can avoid seagrass, definitely do your best to avoid seagrass. But there's some anchorages where you won't see the bottom, so you're not quite sure. Like if you're in Corfu, which is the main anchorage around there, it's beautiful, it's huge. You can see the bottom. You can actually drop your anchor in the sand and avoid the seagrass. But when you can't see it, you've got to test your anchor very well. And you often see the charter boats, they'll ignore the grass, they'll drop the anchor, they'll pull back, and they'll just keep pulling back, and eventually they pull up, and there's this huge bundle of grass, and it's terrible for the environment, but it also
Gross.
means that they're not really gonna have a safe spot to stay.
So this
Aaron,
is
any input on the whole topic of how to select a safe anchorage?
no, I'm listening. I'm learning and listening for sure.
Very good. All right, let's jump to the other one. And I noticed our time, we're well over, but I'm okay to stay. If you guys are ready to wrap up, we can, but we'll definitely have some things to revisit if you want. So let's take a vote right now. I vote keep going.
I'm good to keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, you're all good.
Very good. All right, so we've got next question here. When you zoom in on a map, what factors are you considering, like landforms, depth, wind features, traffic, etc.? We've kind of addressed that. I think that you guys were pretty good with that. Any additional comments on that?
There's just that factor of landforms is a valid one, certainly. Mentioned looking at the forecast and wind and wave direction. Quite often, if you're in a not so, when I say deep versus shallow, I mean how far it is from the land coast to the beach, let's say. If you're in a fairly shallow anchorage, quite often those waves will wrap around a headland. So it might look like the waves are going to hit you at 90 degrees and there's a whole piece of land in the way to protect you. But just be aware that, once those waves get above 1-2 meters, they're going to come rolling around that corner anyway. So at that point, I try and get as close to the beach as I can if I'm forced to use that anchorage. But we didn't really touch on landforms, so I thought I'd just chip in on that one.
Well, I know there was an episode in Patrick's last season with Sailing Electra, their YouTube channel. Go follow it, like it, subscribe to it, all the stuff. But he got to a spot where he was talking about how the wind funnels through these landforms in a way that makes it very awful. And he was just excited to get through it as fast as possible. So I was like, I need to have you guys break this down more. What do you look for when you're there? Like, what am I looking for?
Yeah, wind shotguns and catabatics, both horrible situations to get stuck in. That sounds awful, man.
Yeah, it's something I learned in my paragliding days because you never want to be blown over the back of a mountain on a paraglider, and when you've got a low-lying bit between two tall mountains, the wind funnels through there. So yeah.
That's what blew up my my bridle when I was saying about one leg of it snapped. It was a massive gust came down through a valley, and
Yeah.
it can be serious because it went from 20 knots to 50 knots and back to 20 in a split second.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Whoa.
horrible.
Aaron, your reaction was exactly what I was feeling. You're,
Yeah, snapping lines is not pleasant.
no.
Not fun. Yeah.
Sounds awful. All right, next, I would like for you guys who want to answer this to rewind in your brain to when you were about to anchor for the very first time ever, like very first time. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell that less experienced version of yourself about the whole process?
Oh wow.
Mm.
That
I
is,
know. You're welcome. So glad you joined, Iain.
I know. Did I mention? Sorry, I got places to be. Wow. Okay, that's a tough one.
And remember, I come from a teaching background, so wait time is my speciality.
Oh, that gold stare. My wife's a teacher, or was a teacher too. So yeah, it's difficult. I start sweating on her behalf.
The stare.
I mean, if you've got a really nice option to choose a bay that's protected in 360 degrees, go and use that for your first few anchorages because you're not going to have the waves to worry about. You just have a little bit of wind. The one lesson I do have is never trust the wind direction when there's a thunderstorm because that just throws everything out. You can't, you can have wind directed from any direction and a thunderstorm will change it to any other direction. But for your first anchorage, I think just go out in good weather. I mean, don't make it difficult on yourself. You don't have to, go out regardless of the weather because you've made a decision never to go into a dock if you don't have to. You want to enjoy your first few anchorages, so make it easy on yourself. Find a place that's not crowded. Find a place where you can put 5, 6, even 7 to 1 if you really want to, and have a good relaxing time. Yeah.
I love that, and it reminds me because over on our channel, there's an episode where we had to outrun a storm that was a freak storm that came in, and July was strangely filled with storms in North Carolina where we were, and so I was, as I said before, messaging Patrick, going, "Teach me, teach me, teach me," and we were dead set, like we're gonna anchor tonight. It's gonna happen, and then here comes the storm, and he was like, just don't do it. Like, just go find yourself a dock and go there if you can, because make it pleasant. You don't want this to be awful. And I'm so glad we took that advice because it was quite a storm and it would not have been fun to be on anchor through all that. Iain, any words of wisdom?
Well, so it's interesting. Like many people, I started on monohulls, and actually the advice is slightly different between mono and cat, in my experience. So if you're on a cat, the first bit of advice I would always give, other than approach the wind for where you want to anchor, so obviously get the boat facing the wind, head towards where you want to drop the hook. Go slow is the first bit of advice. So essentially, when I come into anchor on a cat, I'll aim for the wind direction, head towards it, so I've got 0 degrees apparent. I'll then slow the boat right down and lock the helm off. I'll actually lock the wheel, and then I'll use my 2 engines to keep this vessel on course and crawl up to where I want to be. Basically, it's like the whole docking maneuver. Go as fast as you're willing to hit something. So in the case of anchoring, I don't want to overshoot. I want to just literally crawl up to my point as best I can, weather allowing. And that way you can take your time. When it comes to dropping the hook, you can take your time to do your maths and say, right, based on the depth we're in, this is how much chain it is to hit the bottom. This is how much I need till I can say I'm at my scope or put my bridle on for my scope. If you're doing it in a rush, particularly if it's you and a partner, particularly if it's you and your partner, it's a recipe for an absolute disaster and probably not talking for about half an hour afterwards. So go slow, be comfortable, everyone's happy, make sure you've communicated in advance, and just take that boat into where you want it facing the wind. As Patrick says, make sure the weather's on your side. On a monohull, you don't often get that amount of time to think. You've got the risk of the bow getting caught by the wind and forcing the boat to face the wrong way again, which means doing a come around, and you have to sort of work, or go around, I should say, and you have to repeat your approach. But again, just clear communications, do what you can to keep the vessel facing the wind, and go slow if you can afford to.
Brilliant. Aaron, any input? I'm always going to offer it to you. So
No, I'm listening. So,
All right.
I'm waiting for
Same,
you,
brother.
They're both
Same.
wrong.
what they're saying makes total sense. Yeah, go slow. Be patient. Go slow.
I'm
Love
not a
it.
massive advocate for it, but those headsets, we actually got a set not that long ago, and it did make a difference. We're both divers on our boat, so we communicate by hand. But so we come in stealth mode, which is great in some anchorages. When you walk in, you're like just gesturing funny hand signals.
Yeah.
But when we got those headsets, it did sort of detract from some of the mini stressful moments that can happen as well. So if you are doing it for the first time, communication is definitely the one thing that's going to trip you up.
Listen, my wife and I are both landlubbers who are going, what are we doing? But it's a big adventure. We're going to try it. And we watched a lot of video on YouTube of people doing our Great Loop adventure, right? And one of the biggest things they said was, get those headsets. They're called marriage savers. We don't care what they bill them as. They're marriage savers. Have them. And I am so glad we did, because there were times, man, I was like, "Ah, we're coming in hot. I need to slow down." Ah!
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Very good. Let's move to the next one. Here we go. Describe a stressful situation while at anchor. Nothing in particular, just a stressful situation that you were like, whoa. And Iain, you can't use the snapping bridle line. That one's been used.
I'm just thinking, I mean, we don't stress that much. Having to like watch for resets. We've been in a few occasions where we've been heading towards the rocks based on our swing radius. So we've been sat at an anchorage for more than a week. The weather forecast, you can never trust it more than a few days where we are in the world. And so, the weather came in that we weren't predicting. And so our vessel was where we were anchored. We were in perfectly good water, tons of space. But when you go 180 degrees round, you're going to start smashing into the rocks that are also on the beach, you know. So having to react to that was a little bit tense, perhaps. But again, you just kind of get on with it, right? So I'm not sure that counts in answer to your question.
That's beautiful. And I want to jump in there with my own, because I've got so little experience, but this was one I wanted to share. And that was when we anchored off Belhaven, North Carolina. Beautiful little town. If you're ever in the US and going through the Great Loop, like, why would you ever go to Belhaven unless you're on the loop? Like, and so we anchored there for our very first time. And then sure enough, here comes, like I said, July was a crazy month of storms, unseasonably heavy with storms. And so I was like, oh crap, we're in it and we're already there. And Patrick said, don't do this, but we're already hooked down. We're set. We're going to ride it out. We're going to figure this crap out, because we got to do it at some point. And we only have so long to try this. And we got to head back home. Well, we stayed overnight on anchor. And of course, I'm a ball of stress just in general, because I got to have this go well, or my wife's going to say, I'm out. And I don't want her to say that. And so I'm just watching like a hawk, the app, just to make sure as it's showing you the little circle that I know it's supposed to make with your tracking your progress around the hook. And oh, are we slipping? Oh, are we slipping? And the big thing that I want to share here is getting out, and I would go stand at the windlass and I would look toward the shore, and I'd have a spot that I'm looking at. And in this case, it was a particular big boat that was over there on the dock, and it was tied off and everything. That was my frame of reference, and I would routinely go and look right down the line and see, did we slip? Because this maybe suggests that we're gonna sink. I knew it. And then I would go, wait, we haven't slipped at all. Like, this makes me think we're slipping, but when I look right here, I still see that boat is at the exact same line from where it was last time I looked. So having that actual tactile analog thing that's real, not just a digital display. Don't wait on your digital all the time for everything. Like,
Landmark.
have a landmark and reference that. It's important. And so anyway, there's my little 2 cents, my little newbie 2 cents. I hope that helps somebody. So Patrick, give us yours. Stressful situation for Aaron.
In my first season, I was so stressed every time I was anchoring. I never wanted to leave the boat. So I was basically living on the boat. When I got off the boat, I was checking my anchor alarm every 5 minutes. And nowadays, I'm much more relaxed, because you know you've done things the right way, and you know you've tested your anchor, and things are going well. One of the stresses we've got, which is quite new to us this season, is boats being too close to us. And when you're going into busy bays in Greece and Ionian, and I remember one specific bay in Meganisi where It was tight, and I anchored, and I think I had all the boats. I think I anchored 2 or 3 times to make sure I was exactly between all the boats and nobody was swinging into one. And I was quite happy. I was not the happiest I've been on an anchor, but I was happy enough. And another boat came, and they just dropped anchor in front of us. They didn't dig it in. They didn't bury. Put down maybe it was probably 10 meters deep, and I think they put down about 30 meters of chain. And then they got in their dinghy and they disappeared. And that was a stressful
Nice.
time.
Neighbor
Sucks.
helping neighbor. Gotta love it. All right, here you go. Describe. You know me. Those of you who have watched the show or just know me, I'm not going to ask the first question without the follow up good question. And here it is. Describe a blissful situation while at anchor. Something that'll just make somebody fall in love with the concept and go, I want to do that so bad.
I mean, that's most of the time.
Hey, let's go.
I mean, I'll jump on this. So yeah, we've been fortunate enough to anchor in some pretty wild and unusual places. But there's one anchorage in the Marquesas, which is in the middle of, it's on the outside of the French Polynesia. So you're in the middle of the Pacific, pretty much. And it's this one little anchorage. It's quite well known by people who've come across, but we dropped there having had a pretty horrible Pacific crossing. So we'd blown up an engine, we'd ripped the bowsprit off the boat 4 times, ripped the spinnaker into tatters. We lost our oven on day 4 of the passage, so we had no way to cook food, and we had weevils who had to throw most of our food away. So we arrived kind of limping our way in. It was grim. And we dropped the hook, and just by good fortune, where we chose to anchor, every morning I'd wake up and we had 20 manta rays swimming right next to the boat.
Wow.
So we'd wake up, I go to the bathroom, I'd look out the window, and there'd just be like 6 of them swimming past.
Wow.
It's just too easy. And you jump in, you go snorkeling with them. They love seeing people, it seems. They want to hang out.
You jump in. I don't do that.
Yeah, you do. They're brilliant. They're the French Polynesians have them, or the Polynesians, I should say. It's the symbol of curiosity, I think, is the manta ray. So they want to see you. They come in to have a good look. And so having gone through a grueling challenge of 40 days at sea with everything falling apart and the boat falling to bits, and then just being surrounded by these silent ballet dancers of the sea every single day.
Beautiful.
Like, that's bliss, That's a real.
It helps melt your challenges away. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the blood pressure went down a few notches every morning until we were back to normal.
Love it.
Cool.
Aaron, Patrick.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I mean, there's so many really nice anchorages I've been at. Some that stick into memory. So Corfu is my favorite town in the world, and it's full of super yachts in summer. I mean, there must be 30, 40 super yachts. This year we had Jeff Bezos there, we had Mark Zuckerberg there, but you get the exact same experience, the same view, all of that on your little boat. And because you've got a smaller boat, you can anchor right in the town. So we anchored at the foot of the monuments and that there, which is just the best place to be. So that's one of the nice ones. And then in Split, just outside Split Airport, there's an anchorage, and it's a nice enough town. But every day again, the dolphins would come in and hunt fish in this bay and disappear again.
Wow.
And every morning you wake up, dolphins coming past and they disappear again. That was really nice too.
Oh, that's so great. Oh, I just want that. Listen, guys, I'm stuck in the middle of winter in Missouri.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm as far away from the ocean as you can get in North America. I should not have asked this question. Now I'm just envious.
Poor life choices.
Yeah. So what I can say is that I'm like Jason. I'm itching to get out there and get all these blissful things. What I can say is, as soon as we're done with this show, I'm heading to the beach. So I'm not in cold ass Missouri right now.
Rub it in.
It's about 84 right now and sunny. I'm looking out the window. So we're heading to the beach after this.
How do I mute Aaron? I need to mute Aaron.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot down here. Hot and humid.
Love it. All right, fellas, let's jump over to, and I want to make this one brief so we can just go quickly on this one because we are over time. Rank in order of your personal preference. Here we go. We're going to go with, if I can get this to work, anchor, mooring ball, marina, free dock, paid dock. And just a brief description of why. I'm going to start just on mine. My preference is anchor because I don't have to dock. Ugh, docking's horrible. Mooring ball, never done it. Marina, I would put that last because it costs so freaking much. And free dock, I like those a lot, but they're a little less like, I don't know, they feel a little sus to use
They're not reliable.
the millennial terms. I feel like, or is this going to hold? Or am I going to get robbed? I don't know what's happening here. Paid dock. I guess I'd go that as number 2 because it doesn't cost as much as a marina, and they're usually in decent condition. So,
All right, I'll
there's
go
my
next.
2 cents.
So anchor is my highest preference, then mooring ball, then free dock, then paid dock, and then marina. I don't want to go to any marinas really.
I hate the marinas too.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, I look at anchor as the ultimate freedom. That's freedom.
Yeah.
And then as it goes down in preference, you're becoming less and less free, so to speak, in my opinion. So yeah, right.
And those who are still watching, looks like we've held on. I mean, we're an hour and a half in, and we still got a viewer base. But if you want to sound off on the comments as well, put them in order from your preferred to your least preferred.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, let's jump over to Ian or Patrick. What are yours and why?
All right, I'll jump in there. Marinas are at the bottom just because I don't have the money for marinas. But if money wasn't a factor, um, there are some incredibly nice docks around the Med. I've stayed in places in Croatia where you're in the middle of this village because that's where the town dock is, and that's really quite special sometimes. Typically, I anchor just because it's easy and I trust my anchor very well. In my first season, if there was a storm coming, I would put mooring ball above anchor until I heard stories that mooring balls actually break away. Not very often, but often enough that it's that you have to check on them if you want to. So nowadays I don't do mooring balls anymore, and there aren't any in Greece. There's loads in Croatia. So anchor, paid dock, free dock, mooring ball, marina.
Yeah. I have to admit, very similar thinking. I mean, we as I said earlier, we do 90% of our time, 99% of our time at anchor. Basically because we know we can trust the ground tackle. We trust our anchor, trust our chain, trust our windlass, and trust our boat. And
it's you.
Sometimes our abilities, So yeah, anchoring is by far for us the safest option and quite often the only option. Yeah, mooring balls, I would use that next only because I want to stay out in the water. However, much like our anchoring, we will always dive an anchor. I will always dive a mooring ball. And we've had some pretty close calls with that. We tied off to a mooring ball in a pearl farm. And the way it's designed, it's just 2 large lines tied off to coral heads and then tied together with floats on the top. So
Nice.
it was tense. We tied off to that. And then about, 2 a.m, I just went out to do my checks, as I often do if I'm on a questionable location. And instead of like falling back off this giant coral head as we had been, I found that we were completely like 2 foot away from it on the transom at the back step. So in the middle of the night, we had to navigate our way out of an entire pearl farm, which is the death trap. So mooring balls are certainly not my preference, but they're there because they're usually free. Then free docks, we've done plenty of sort of old military stations, that kind of thing. So I always like not spending money, and usually it's if I need fuel or water. Our water maker died on us, so we were getting some water from a dock in Howe, which is like an old nuclear testing plant. So you just tie out to this crumbling dock surrounded by radioactive people, and then they give you free water.
At least they glow at night, and you can see them coming. I mean, there's.
The best part is that we left there, we sailed down to the Gambia, and in the morning we noticed we'd picked up a stowaway, and it was this sort of 2 centimeter long gecko. We called him Paul. And so he lives on the boat now. It's great. We have this buddy. And then, yeah, paid dock, I suppose, and then marina. But I don't think I've really had enough to be fair in my response there. I haven't done enough marinas and docks.
No, because it's your perspective. It's absolutely fair. Brian has stuck with us the whole time. I love his comments. He's doing a great job connecting with us. And he says, marina first. Wife likes them. We like riding our bike into town for coffee and bakery.
Makes
That sounds freaking awesome.
Yeah, makes sense. Yep.
And then he's in Northern Europe, and then anchor. And I like how he's like, screw all the other options. All right, let's take a look at next slide here. Anchor alarms. This is a big one, and this is why Ian has made it through the whole show so far, because he is going to talk to us about this here. I'll share our imagery here. The one on left was, so this was Navionics app. This is the Garmin Navionics boating app. I think it was the Garmin one is what I used here. And it was basically set the anchor. I didn't have the ability or the know-how, I should say, to find the big circle that it puts around where you can set, hey, scream at me if you get outside of the circle. But yeah, it's supposed to pretty much follow a circular pattern, which I was like, I felt like the kindergartner that I feel like I am, because I was like, that looks about like how a kindergartner would color in a picture, right? You're like, oh my god, that is terrible. This must be a sign of my just I should not be doing this. This is not safe. And no, it was fine. I think a lot of it comes down to having the right tool to track the things the right way. And I don't think that I had that set up. I had it adequate, but it was definitely makeshift and proof of concept. Up in the upper right hand corner for the chart plotters, I got a killer deal on one of those. And so because of the deal, I feel happy with it. And it does have an alarm feature to it. So I'm excited to get back to the boat and hook that up and try that. See how that goes. But here in a minute, I have a feeling Iain is going to make me feel like I've made the wrong decision and I need to go a different route. Dang it. And then over here in the middle, that is Patrick's image that he shared. Patrick, you want to speak to that image?
It's not from my phone. I just pulled it off the web because I use an app for my anchor alarm called Anchor Pro, and it doesn't draw a pretty picture like that, which is quite annoying. It just gives me the circle and a dot. Um, but it does two things. So you need an anchor alarm for when you're on the boat, and you need an anchor alarm for when you're off the boat. And I don't often pay for too many apps, but this one I paid for just because I can check where my boat is on Telegram. It's not great. It's not a brilliant app. It does the bare minimum of what I need it to do, but I would love to be able to switch on my phone and see on the picture exactly where my boat is when I'm not on it, and I can't do that at the moment, which is a very annoying thing.
Okay, so Patrick brought up something that Aaron, I think you're going to laugh at, and I'm going to share it because why not? Let's be transparent. And that is the very first time I used that app, I only had it on the phone. And my thought was leave my phone on the boat, and that'll show us off of Leslie, my wife's phone. I can track how the boat's doing. And then by the time we got all the checklists done, and we're finally getting in the dinghy. This is like 2 hours after anchoring because it's like I'm not moving until I feel absolutely confident. And so we get on the dinghy, we get to shore. I go to check on my phone, which is not on the boat anymore. It's actually in my pocket, so it shows the boat. The boat is completely on land. How is the? Oh crap! This is not helping at all. And so that was hilarious. And I should have actually used that one because it would have been a funny way to do it. So let's dive over here to this picture where we have, and Patrick, I apologize. It's on your YouTube channel, so I figured it was publicly accessible and okay. I did not get his permission beforehand though, so I did a bad thing. But this is the nighttime crossing episode on Patrick's channel, and since we had this and he confirmed this wasn't his, I was like, well, I want to go show everybody his equipment at least, and have that view of Electra. So, do you want to share that with us?
Well, that's this year, in my first 2 years, I used Navionics because it's kind of the default app on your phone that everyone uses is Navionics. And they kept pushing the price up and pushing the price up. So I've actually switched from Navionics now to what I'm called, oh, sorry, memory lapse there. I'm now using Orca, which is a free app, which for the mid is actually really, really, really good. And it does something that Navionics doesn't do, is it pulls off the internet the AIS data. So on Orca, I can see when there's a boat out of my view of sight coming towards me, and I can make a change and move around and that. So it's really nice. And for a free app, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And then you've also got my compass, and I had another screen on. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I only use apps for navigation. I don't have a GPS anymore. The boat came with a very, very old one, but I've replaced that. I've got a backup navigation now, which is OpenCPN, Open Chart Plotter, and that works really nicely too. And I've got the app, I've also paid for it on another phone. So sometimes I'll put them next to each other. And on OpenCPN, you can pull data in from anywhere. So I've got all sorts of different types of data on OpenCPN, which is a different map source to Orca. So if I'm going into new anchorage, I'll put them both on. And sometimes one of them will pop up something that's, there's an obstacle here, or don't be more than a meter deep here because it's a very tall rock. And the other one won't have it. So that's quite useful.
That's brilliant. Now, fellas, before we dive into Iain's bit, segment, his awesome sub show. I do want to share this because, fellas, I'm gonna own this one. My wife has posed a question on our solar sailing, and we are all in trouble. And I started this. I did this. I caused this. Remember the hornet's nest? Crap!
Yes.
I'm getting stung. Leslie Waltz has posed the question. Love the question on anchoring preferences, gentlemen. I'd be interested to know the preferences that your significant others have on this in a follow-up update. Oh, so Candace and Shara and Leslie is going to get to sound off, and then Ian, what's your
Yeah, get Brian in on it too. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we'll do it in the comments. Maybe we could do that. We could find out if the ladies will jump on the comments and throw it in there. That would be kind of fun. So there it is. The gauntlet has been thrown down, and we're in trouble if we don't get the answers to that. I'm just saying. Help me out, brothers. All right, let's shift to Ian. Ian, talk to us about this beautiful display, or Aaron, talk to us about this beautiful display, and then Ian, jump in and take it from there.
So I'm gonna basically, I'm in the process of putting together what I'm gonna be using for navigation and stuff. Hence bringing Ian on. Maybe he's gonna be able to change my mind. I'm gonna use OpenCPN, and these are touch screens that I'm going to put together. Basically putting together my own system. Simple, something simple. Like my whole motto on the boat is keep it simple, because when you're out there, we got to fix this stuff. You can't bring your boat to the mechanic, so to speak, if you're out in the middle of the water. So if something breaks, you either have to have redundancy and a replacement, or you got to be able to fix it. So a lot of these foo-foo fancy things, if they break and I can't fix them, then they're useless to me. They're good when they're working. Technology is great when it's working, but when technology breaks, it's an utter nightmare if you can't fix it quickly. So yeah, that's my perspective on pretty much everything, really.
Perfect. Yeah, that's absolutely right, though. I mean, as I always say, we've spent 4 or 5 days in a marina in our entire time on the boat, and we've been mostly in places that people don't go when we've been on the boat. So my mantra is very much the same. If I can't fix it, I don't want it.
No.
So just a slight diversion here. We recently installed 2 brand new engines in our boat, and Bryony and I, on our own, floating in the water, did the installation.
No experience. With
zero experience with mechanics on engines. And we made a point of getting true standard diesels. No common rail, no fancy integrations. They were just straightforward engines, because we needed to know that when we get hit by something horrible in the sticks, you have to be able to fix it yourself. And that's the mentality we stuck to with the Zora stuff, which I'm happy to explain in more detail.
Yeah, please do. We want to hear everything you want to tell us about Zora and the project and the product and all of the above.
Great. Well, okay, so I will end up talking too long, so you guys are going to have to start waving flags at me and things, because I get a little bit excited.
Listen, this episode's off the rails anyway.
There we go, yeah. We're heading into hour 5, folks. So Zora is the brainchild, actually, of about, I think collectively, probably something in the region of about 30 years of cruising amongst everyone involved. So Olivier was the founder of the company, and he came up with this idea when he was cruising he did all the Med, then he went down through Magellan Straits, South America, Patagonia, came out the other side, and then did the Pacific. And
Ian, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you have a website or something for Zora specifically that I can post?
Of course, yeah. If you head over to, apologies, the name is iNav4U. So the letter I, NAV, the number 4, the letter U, inav4u.com. And you can check it out there. Sweet. On Red Seas, we have a little pile of videos as well that walk through the system. So if you're more of a visual learner, that's another way to do it. But essentially, what Zora is, it's anchor alarms. It's also full navigation. It's charts. It's all of your logbooks for every device on the boat. I will miss things off. It's your maintenance list, so you can actually bring up a tradition. It's called a Kanban, so like a to-do list. No more post-it notes moving around on a board. All of that's baked into the platform, and yeah, about a million other things. But it's all baked into a box that runs on about 7 watts of power. Sits in the boat. Leave it on all the time. and it talks in every language. So we made a point of making a system that talks not only to NMEA 2000 devices, which are more modern navigation sensors like depth sounders and GPS. It'll also talk older platforms like NMEA 0183. It'll even talk back into like automotive protocols like CAN bus. So literally this one box is like a multilingual unit that talks to everything. And then you bring up whatever device you have, a phone, an iPad, a laptop, a touchscreen monitor, as many of them as you want, and they can all act independently as well. So I can be sitting down in my cabin while I'm not on watch with my phone next to me with a whole pile of alarms set. The system's actually kind of AI intelligent, so it'll actually notify me of things before I need to check on them. And those alarms are unique to my login, if you like. And then Bryony could be up at the helm, and she's got a whole different set of alarms, a whole different set of screens on display. And ironically, as you can probably tell from that screenshot, it's actually designed that you don't look at it, which is kind of counterproductive, counterintuitive even. So the whole system is designed around 3 colors. It's either blue, which is information, yellow, which is a warning, or red, which is an alarm. So blue, hey, heads up, by the way. Yellow, yeah, you probably want to do something about this. And red, you need to do something about this. And so quite often I'll be sailing along, and it's not about how many displays I can have in front of me and how many different numbers I can have up. Actually, it's in my peripheral vision. If the boat's happy and I'm sailing where I want to go, I don't need to look at the screens because I know it's fine. There's also an audible alarm we can turn on and off for those things. And then, given today's been all about anchoring, I might as well talk to that because we spent quite a long time getting that finessed. So we realized anchoring is an issue that people struggle with quite often. So when you head into your anchorage, Zora is essentially situationally aware, meaning it understands if your boat is sailing, motoring, anchoring, docking, mooring, whatever it may be. You just tap a button and say, I plan to anchor now. And Zora says, okay, well, I'll reduce the AIS alarms so that they're only immediate vessels. Because when you're out sailing, you might want to know about something over the horizon. But when you're anchoring, I don't need an alarm about a boat that's a mile away. It'll also change the depth alarms. So when I'm sailing, again, maybe I want to know when I'm crossing over a 5-meter boulder. When I'm anchoring, I want to be in 5 meters or less. So I don't need alarms going off. I want to know when it's 1 meter or less. And then it'll start calculating your scope based on where you are in the tide cycle. So it'll display, okay, with the amount of chain you have, where your anchor bridle reaches. Right now, you could only achieve a 3-to-1 scope. And you can tap a button and say, yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. Or you can wait till 4, 5, 6, and so on, start lighting up, and you tap the one you want. And then Zora will actually say, okay, well, if you want a 5-to-1 scope in this depth, deploy your anchor now, and you only have to drop, let's just say, 5 meters, and the anchor will be touching the seabed. And so you can tell the person at the bow, okay, drop 5 meters. And they deploy 5 meters of chain. Then you start backing up, and it says, great, carry on deploying chain up till, I'll get my maths wrong now, but let's pretend it was 25 meters. So you deploy 25 meters of chain, at which point put your bridle on. Oh, thank you very much, Zora. All right, we can put the bridle on now, attach that, and then it says, okay, I'm going to show you your RPMs. You start backing down, and I'll tell you if you're dragging. And you can look out to the side, and if you're happy that your boat's not going anywhere, you can say, yes, Zora, the anchor's holding. And now it'll, from that, create an anchor alarm. But unlike the apps, where everyone just says, I put out 25 meters of chain, so here's a 25-meter circle. Zora knows the depth that you anchored at. It knows the difference in tides. And so it knows it's actually not a straight line out to 25 meters. It's trigonometry. You're 25 meters up and back from your anchor. So your anchor radius is actually smaller than you might think. And that can make all the difference in tight anchorages. Because as the tide goes down, your anchor radius expands. And now you're not actually at a 5-to-1 anymore. You're at a 6-to-1, perhaps, depending on the tide in the part of the world you're in. So Zora dynamically adjusts, matching the tide, actually how far your anchor would technically reach at that tide height. And then it's all on board and off board. So if you head off the shore to go explore a mountain, I can get an email or a text letting me know exactly what's happening on the boat with any parameter, whether that be depth, wind, dragging, battery levels. We even have an example on the system where the Zora would actually text one of our testers. It would text the tester and say, you're planning to do pizza on Tuesday night, but there's not enough battery right now. Would you like me to fire up the generator? And you technically can tell Zora to fire up the generator, which there's 2 schools of thought if you want to do that, but it's certainly an option. So it's, I describe it kind of like a chart plotter on steroids meets home automation on a boat. It's kind of all of those things
It's like it's a smart trot
Smart boat.
plotter, smart, yeah, smart, yeah, like a smart TV or smart something like that. Yeah,
It's kind of it's like having an Amazon Alexa, Siri, a Samsung Smart TV, and every other smart home thing you can think about, but designed for marine, and a whole navigation suite to go with it with AI, ChatGPT essentially, but it's not ChatGPT, it's our own AI built in to handle everything else. And the key point is it doesn't do anything unless you tell it to. So
That's
it's
awesome.
not like it's going to start turning stuff on or start changing your lights unless you say, I would like you to turn the lights on. So I say that with the caveat because AI, everyone thinks is a robot takes over and you just sit down and do nothing. But we like sailing. So sailing.
That's brilliant. So we could have one of our viewers, let's say, was interested. Could they go to inav4u.com and
Absolutely.
connect with, or do you have a place where they can ask questions to talk further?
Yeah, you can fire us messages there. You can actually book and we'll do a live like demo and walkthrough of the system. So that's all real time. If you're in a different time zone or struggling to find time yourselves to do that, then over on our channel, Red Seas, we actually just produced I think it was a 35 minute long kind of walkthrough as well.
Cool.
So there's loads of resources online to learn more. And as I say, the in-person version as well, both online and in-person real time. So
Red Seas is your YouTube channel, is that correct?
Yeah, you can head over to youtube.com/Red Seas or Sailing Red Seas, either one. Okay. And it's fairly recent. We were launching it just the other week at Met's show in Amsterdam. So we were launching lots of videos just in time for that.
Brilliant. And so they could then go see your 30-minute or so walkthrough of all the components and everything and how it works.
Yeah, it's kind of a whistle stop. There's always more you could go into, but it's a kind of good bird's eye overview. And yeah, it gives a real sense of the flexibility of the system. And then from that, pretty much the imagination is the limitation. So,
it's so exciting.
It's interesting. Bringing back to you guys were mentioning OpenCPN. It's one of those things that OpenCPN, it brings a lot of flexibility in an open platform. One of the things we tried to do with Zora is make it bomb-proof, which is one of the things that OpenCPN, depending what processor you're putting on and how you're running it, how fine-tuned it is, you do need to have a bit more tech-savvy knowledge to that. Zora has all of that flexibility, but I would describe it almost like going from Linux to Apple. It's kind of like
more of a plug and play version for somebody that wants the flexibility and they want the openness, but they want to have some kind of guidance as well.
Yeah, and that robustness. We've been testing it solidly personally, I've been testing it for 4.5 years. It's probably done about 30,000 miles of testing across some of the most open water I can find, and we've put it through its paces, and so we're just trying to make something that's you need to be able to trust your instruments, but at the same time you shouldn't be sucked into them and forget to look out. So you want to make sure people go back to sailing and enjoying it.
Beautiful. So I've gone ahead and I'll go ahead and share that on the feed as well. This is the YouTube channel there, so that you guys can go to it. It's also in the comments. And so, man, Iain, you have been a delight and such a trooper to remain at an hour 52 minutes, along with quite a few viewers who've remained. This is by far and away the record. I don't know if it's a good record. It's so long, but it's been awesome. I feel like time flies when you're having fun. And if you're a viewer who's stayed with us this long, please do hit like and subscribe to all of our channels. It's in the description. I'll make sure to go back and include, because we didn't know that Iain was going to be joining us. Usually when we have a special guest, I'll call you a surprise guest. But we put their links and their channels and all that in the description as well. So I'll be sure to update that. We like to end every show with kind of a final thoughts or big takeaways. And it's just a lovely time and just a kind of your chance to put a bow on it moment. So Aaron, you want to start us this week?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short. There's tons to think about with the anchoring and navigation. This is definitely a controversial and passionate subject for sure. There's more than 10 ways to skin a cat. No way is the right way. The right way is the right way for you. And always be open for, learning because your way may be what you think is the right way, but always be open to absorbing other ways of doing things because maybe it's better than your way that you're doing it currently. And that's it.
Nice. Iain, Patrick, either one of you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm going to wrap up with actually something Aaron said earlier, which is the KISS principle. So it's keep it simple, stupid, or keep it simple, sailor. It's your choice which version you want to go by. But anchoring is one of these things that people can get really caught up in. But at the end of the day, if you go slow, be under control of your boat, and just don't stress about it. Just get it, do the steps. Make sure you've got the information you need, do it safely. You will sleep well at night. But if you want to get over complicated, that's very exciting. But like you just said, Aaron, everyone's got a different way of doing things. Find one that works for you and trust.
And I love that. My takeaway would be that this thing is that when I say thing, this anchoring concept is very complex, but it doesn't have to be complicated. There's a lot to it, but it doesn't have to be something that you're afraid of and just shy away from because it just seems like too much. The beauty, just that little taste that I got of being at anchor, the beauty of that is intoxicating. If you've never done it and you're interested in this world of cruising or sailing or any of those things in between, you know what? One thing, whether you're going via solar electric or sail or dyno juice or whatever your mode of propulsion, every one of them comes down to they all go, yeah, anchoring's really cool. I've never interacted with anyone who's like, I hate anchoring, it's the worst. They all are like, anchoring's just magical. And the magic of anchoring is something I want to get some more of. Patrick, your final thought.
And I have to agree with you on that one. Just being able to stay in the best places in the world for free is just it's quite cool. But anyway, that's not my last thought. My last thought is quite a weird one for me because I like to do things sort of low cost, and pretty much everything I do. Is there a way to do it more cheaply, more efficiently? Anchoring is not that place. If you want a decent anchor, this is not the place to scrimp on money. Buy the anchor you really want, regardless of the cost. Buy the amount of chain you think you really need, regardless of the cost. Okay, weight is a factor. But don't save money in anchoring. You can save money all over the show, but your anchor needs to hold. And in my first season, before I trusted my equipment in that, I think I spent 9 days on mooring balls and marinas because I didn't trust my equipment. And those 9 days cost me 787 euros. I could have bought any anchor I liked for 787 euros for my boat, and it would have been money well spent, and I wouldn't have spent it on anything else. But yeah, buy the anchor you want. Don't worry about the cost.
That's a really good insight. I approve.
Fantastic
that's
stuff.
Your lifeline. That's the lifeline. That could be keeping your house or losing your house.
Yeah, that's it.
Very good stuff. Folks, thanks for sticking with us on a record-breaking episode, nearly 2 hours. I promise we'll avoid that at all costs when we can, but this was just too good. We couldn't pass it up. And so moving forward, next episodes, we have a great one coming up next week where we're going to be looking at a particular outboard and how it might be a useful tool for you. I'm going to leave it at that because it's a bit of a mystery. I hope you'll come back for it. We try and stick to the Saturdays where possible. I think that is still the plan for next week. Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, and then whatever ODark 30 that equates to out over there in Europe where you guys are. But folks, thank you so much for sticking through it, watching, and continue, like, subscribe, all the stuff. Go back and look at all of our other content. I think you'll see a nice spread of personalities. You'll see a nice spread of experiences and even adventures that are just, that's what I love about this group right here is we have such different adventures. So the final thing that we always do, and it sometimes gets cut off because Restream doesn't like to keep listening for as long as I want him to, is Patrick Mackay taking us out in the only way possible. He was on mute.
Thanks for watching the second time.
Thank you guys. Have a good weekend.
See you guys.
See you.
Thanks, Iain.
Thanks, Iain. Appreciate it, bud.